Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today is Thursday, April 16th. It is 9:15 a.m. Eastern, and today I am joined by Jonathan Von Tobel, co-host of Money Moves and the Pod to the Futures podcast. JVT, what's going on?
Nothing much. I guess life goes on. I woke up and I was staring at the same ceiling this morning after watching the Los Angeles Clippers lose yet another play-in game in which they had a 13-point lead, harkening back to 2022. So everything's been absolutely fantastic, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably have that same feeling with me tomorrow when the Suns become, Saturday, when the Suns become the first team in play-in history to lose from the 7th seed and not make the postseason. I feel like that's coming very soon. So, yeah, let's get some rapid reactions to what we saw last night. It was another great night of games. I thought like both of them were exciting in some ways. Magic game, I mean, my first instinct was just like, wow, Paolo Banchero. Like, that's just as low as it gets for a player making that kind of money 2 games in a row. I saw some crazy stat that he became like the first player in NBA history to like miss 15 shots, turn the ball over 6 times, and I saw something like that. And he did it twice in a row. It wasn't so he broke a record. I don't know. This guy is just really, really ballsy to go into that office and say, I want to fire Jamal Mosley or I'm not coming back next year, and like then go out and put out that type of performance.
You know, oddly enough, I did that with our boss, Steve Cohen. I told him, you get rid of Mitch Moss or I'm walking. And oddly enough, that did not really work. No, I mean, I'm with you. It's funny. I texted you guys because a couple of days ago in our Hardwood Handicappers group chat, we had been talking about Magic futures prices, and I think you said something along the lines of like, this is a team that we thought was going to be competitive, and I said that gift and for one night I thought, you know what, maybe I'll believe in them, and then I texted you guys. I was like, I am so disappointed in myself that I thought this bum ass team could actually do this. Banchero's been awful. Mosley's terrible. I mean, there was a great tweet. It's like I can't remember who sent it, but it was, I'm no head coach, but I feel like asking my players to move when they're in half court situations might actually help with the offense. They're poor all the way around, and frankly, it seems like they just don't like each other either. Like there's just so much wrong with this team schematically, personally, that I just don't really. I hate watching them. The offense is dreck, and they've got to do something. And we'll see what they do on Friday. But that was the immediate result. I mean, Philly is not special. The fact that you were watching that game and watching what they're doing on offense, I kept screaming to myself, like, this should be a game that you should be able to win. Like, you're at full strength. You have your 3 guys. You've got the dude you traded 5 first-round picks for. This should be a game in which you're able to at least eke out a victory and move on to the postseason. They weren't able to do that. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything other than this is the Magic team we've been watching all year long. And I think this is going to be the same Magic team that we watch against Charlotte. And we as basketball fans deserve for them to be eliminated because, dear God, I can't watch another 4 games of them.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is in agreement that like we all need Charlotte to win because it sets up like the best series in the first round if Charlotte ends up getting in. I feel like the Hornets taking out the Pistons is what we really want to see. I feel like that could be a 6 or 7 game series. But yeah, it was like kind of shocking to me. I mean, like Orlando kept making the game close, and then you'd get like a Banchero turnover, him driving into traffic, getting stripped or something. And, he's a little afraid to shoot in the game. Like he was like passing on wide open threes. And like, it was another example of like, I don't know, Anthony Black played well. Desmond Bane played really well. It's like everything that this team kind of hoped for in the offseason went right again. And it's just the team wasn't good. And it's because like the Wagner, Banchero fit still really bad. I'm not like out on this team in terms of like long-term future, but I do feel like this summer, like the goal needs to be to just scrap everything. And, the only players that should be on the roster next year, like that you should be like keen on like keeping are Bane, Wagner, and Black. I think that those are the 3 guys you build around and kind of retool it around them. If you do that, I think you could still be a really good Eastern Conference team and maybe kind of extend your window a little bit. But I do think that moving on from Banchero, if you could even do it at this point without attaching picks, is something that they need to look into. And I think that Suggs is a guy that you should look into trading just because I do think Black is good enough to be a starter and, they do kind of occupy the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I think I texted you guys yesterday, and I don't know if you agreed with it or not, but like I think Suggs you can get more for than you would get Banchero. Yep. I mean, and it's insane. It's almost Ben Simmons level of aversion to shooting. How many times did he catch a ball on the perimeter and he just dribbled into a contested jumper? Or there was one where, I mean, Paul George is nowhere near closing out on him, and he just dribbles into a post up from a wide open three of Paul George, and it ends with a missed shot. Like I don't understand what's been going on with his game or the change or whatever it is, but I'm with you. Those three would be like my three horsemen that we're building around as we move forward, and that's about it. Did I see? Is Javon Carter on this roster? Was he on the bench?
Yeah, he's on there.
All right, he's a must-have as well. But no, I'm with you, and I think it's time to move on. And Mosley as well. I mean, I think he's clearly lost this roster. He's doing bumps right before the game. That's not really helping anything. Like nothing is going to help this team while Mosley's there.
Yeah, the only reason I feel bad for Mosley is because like there was all this talk of them bringing in like an elite offensive coordinator, like our assistant coach that can change the offense. And like they brought in, what was it, like Joe Prunty and like God Shamgod. I mean, it just like it didn't happen.
No, but at the same time, if you're going to be a head coach, you've got to be able to do something here with this offense, or and like that's part of the problem. Is Mosley might have his own skill set here, but as a head coach, look, we've seen guys rebound and come back from poor starts to their career. Jason Kidd's obviously one of the bright points there, and his was more player management than anything else, personal management. But I think that you can bounce back, but you've got to be able to be a little bit more well-rounded. I mean, your offense has been awful, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason to it either.
Yep. All right. And then to bring up a bad memory for you, let's get into the Warriors-Clippers game a little bit. I mean, it was just another Steph show. And like there was a point in this game where, I've been helping out Bill with the newsletter with NBA stuff, and I was writing it up. I was writing it up as if the Suns were going to be facing the Clippers. Had to end up changing that at the end. I really thought Los Angeles was going to win that game, but you got, a Curry flurry late. And I think that everybody else kind of stepped up around him. G. Santos, went over his 15.5 points with points and rebounds with just points again, which is something that I noted like was a possibility because last 18 games of the regular season, he was averaging 16 points per game. And all of a sudden 15.5 for points and rebounds. Thought that was a little bit odd, but yeah, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists for him. Good game for Porzingis. Podziemski played his part. It's just like classic Warriors that, they found a way to win. It's almost like a Heat West or something where, there was reasons to doubt them and they showed up in a big game.
I mean, it was a Curry flurry and a Horford hurricane briefly as well, because Horford, I think, hit 3 of his 4 threes in the fourth quarter too. I think all of them seemed to happen in the last 5 minutes of that game. I mean, so I'll just say this, you said it, it was kind of like a classic Warriors performance. It was also a classic Clippers performance. I'm kind of done with this iteration of the team after watching it. And, it's funny. I got a tweet like last night after the game. It was like, you going to change your Clippers hat for a dunce cap? I said this to Stormy. I said it yesterday. I said it the day before. I said on paper, this is a game that they should be able to win and maybe even be able to cover. But I have watched this team fail in this spot 1,000 times over. We watched it last year against the Denver Nuggets. You saw back to, we can go down the list of times in which the Clippers had a team that on paper was better than their opponent and they just folded. And I'm tired of Ty Lue coming in after these games and going, it was really disappointing. I'm pissed off. Yeah, you should be, man. And I'm sorry too. He had a great season. The nonchalant nature of Kawhi Leonard doesn't work in these spots. Like it just doesn't. I know Draymond was great on defense. He was absolutely fantastic when you actually watch that. You should have more than 2 points in the fourth quarter if you're going to be the best player on a team that ultimately has some aspirations to compete, and pun intended, for some sort of championship. And Kawhi is just not that guy. He doesn't really fight a ton. You watch and it's like, oh, I'm getting doubled. All right, let's just get rid of the ball and try to force it into Brook Lopez, who's going to turn the ball over. Oh, let's not really try to sprint through and fight through some of these screens and actually try to force my game on this. They were terrible. Chris Dunn, who Ty Lue has talked about making all defense this year, got burned multiple times on that Draymond, Steph Curry handoff nonsense, where at one point, Curry, I think one of the threes that he hits, Dunn gets lost in space, and then he bumps into Brook Lopez, who's scrambling over to try to get to Curry, and they're both just flailing at him while he hits a 3 over him. I'm tired of the unprepared nature of this team. I'm tired of the slow starts. You shouldn't have been here. You were a team that at the beginning of the season with just 6-21 or whatever the hell they were absolutely awful and underperforming. This has all been about Ty Lue and the failure to show up and a nonchalant star who every day is just like, we'll get him next time. Like, no, man, like, I'm sorry, but this version of this team it stinks. I'm kind of done with them. Like, that was another failure for this squad. And I hope they do something to try to reconfigure this team. And I think that maybe the next head coach of the Clippers is already on the roster. I think Jeff Van Gundy's been very good for that team as a defensive assistant. And maybe he comes in and hopefully they're going to move on from Lue. But I think we're kind of done with this version of the Clippers for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to have some strange commitment to Lue and like seem really excited about having him as their head coach still. But I don't know. I'm with you. Like, something has to change. I do think Kawhi is the type of star that, like Durant, it's like you need him next to like one of these psychopaths, like a Draymond Green or a Dylan Brooks, like, because if they're not going to supply the energy, someone needs to. And I think that that's just something that they're going to have to look to add to Kawhi this summer. But it is, at least a sign of things going in the right direction that they made the Zubac trade, got those 2 picks. But I just don't know where they go from here. Like, I thought they should have traded Kawhi at the deadline. Was a little surprised that they didn't after they sold off the other pieces, but really interested in seeing what they do in the offseason.
Well, it makes you wonder if some of these teams didn't want him because of what was hanging over him with the investigation, or at least they weren't willing to ship something off because they just didn't know. I know he was asked about it yesterday again, and he felt like they were going to be in the clear. So we'll see. Maybe things have changed, but I kind of trust this front office. I mean, they've kind of pushed all the right buttons, to your point, throughout the years, reconfiguring this team, rebuilding the plane while it's in the air, so to speak. But whatever it is, Ty Lue, Kawhi, that combination of just guys who don't really seem to get too fired up. It's just that at some point you've got to have somebody. And then it was just a toxic mix when you had James Harden there, because you have 2 dudes who are I just still can't get last year's Game 7 against Denver out of my head, where you're just absolute no-show in a must-win situation, given all of the disappointments and the upside of your team. And then here again in this game, to collapse the way that they did, I mean, it's absolutely abysmal. And, look, hopefully Darius Garland's healthy next year. He talked about that in the postgame presser about how he felt like he was, what did he say? It was in 9 toes. So hopefully he's going to be healthy and all 10 toes will be available and ready to go. But that was a disgusting loss, I would say, for the Clippers, even though that they were playing in the 9-10. The fact that they were there too. I mean, I don't talk about the slow start, Zach. Go back to Friday, and I brought that up too. You have a big game against the Portland Trailblazers. You got to have that game so you can get 2 cracks at this thing. And what do?
Yep.
They no-show in that game too, and they lose in Portland. This team in these spots has always been there, and at the top, like, you've got to fix that, because the fact that you constantly no-show in these must-wins in the Ty Lue era, that's got to change.
Yep. All right, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive tomorrow on the Friday night play-in games. And the main reason that I do have JVT on today is we're going to do some Eastern Conference playoff series matchup, previews. But I did want to ask you, anything stand out for you for Friday night? Any plays you're already looking to make?
Yeah, 2 of them. First off, it's low-hanging fruit, but I mean, it's Charlotte, right? I mean, this team, like Orlando, as we've just talked about, Orlando sucks. They don't like each other. They all just want to get the hell out of there and go to the offseason and see what's going to happen. Charlotte's up to, as I'm speaking to you, they're starting some 4s that are starting to pop and whatnot, depending on where you look, some juiced 4s to that side as well. Some spots are moving around. So I just think, I was texting with an odds maker and the day before, and I was texting you guys about, hey, what do you think this number is? And it was right after the game against Miami, and the thought was like, maybe like 1.5 against Orlando, who's a higher power rated team, and then nope, we're up to like 3.5, 4, and I think that is the right move. I think this team sucks, and I think that they're probably going to be able, Charlotte that is, to kind of put the knife in the side. So it seems easy, but Charlotte to me, at anything under 4, I think is still playable. And look, your boys are getting bet up a little bit here, depending on where you're looking at the opener. But I don't know, man. I'll have to sit back and ruminate on this for a bit. But maybe it was just classic Warriors. But Kerr put up a good defensive game plan. They denied the ball to Curry. They were very good defensively, to Kawhi. And Curry is absolutely, seems to be healthy, tremendous. Should be playing more minutes again, right? We talked about the minutes restriction. Everybody's freaking out about that. I think that if you're going to give me like 3, maybe 3.5, I would go down with the ship with Golden State catching that number in what I also believe should be a slugfest, but these games have been pretty high scoring in these play-ins so far.
Yeah, I've been way off on the totals, but I am with you. I actually took the Hornets minus 152 last night, put that in on the Pro Picks page. A little bit of a bigger play. I played it to win 1.5 units, but I agree with you. Anything less than 4 at this point is probably playable and probably the last time you want to play it. Like, I don't think I'd want to lay 4.5, 5 in this game, but I do think Charlotte finds a way to win on the road with you. I think the Magic kind of roll over at some point. Like, all these teams have to be thinking, do we really want to go into the postseason and get killed? I think the Hornets are the only one that could say, will actually go out there and potentially beat the Pistons. So I think that's a mentality that Charlotte's going to have that other teams won't. In the second game, I think it's really going to kick in, because if the Suns are a little bit sluggish through like three quarters, like you might just see them roll over and just be like, all right, well, what are we even fighting for? We're going to get killed by OKC. I do think that there might be a little bit more pride on the Warriors side of getting in and just giving Curry and Draymond a chance. And I do think that the Suns half-court offense, which is completely cratered in the second half of the season, is going to have a lot of trouble putting up points against a really good Warriors defense still. Golden State's still very sound defensively, very good at causing turnovers. So I don't know. I think that the Suns might be heading towards being the first 7 seed to not make the play-in tournament. And I am almost fine with it. Other than the fact that they would be, put that label on them and they would be like the team remembered for that, if people even care. I almost would prefer that they just get into the offseason healthy and don't have to face OKC.
Yeah. I mean, and dude, and going back to this non-data, even though we're a betting thing, like to the point of what we deserve, don't you want to see LeBron and Steph, one crack at this thing? I mean, I think Steph, they'd probably get slaughtered, but the Steph versus Shea and this OKC team, we get like 1 or 2 Steph bangers where he's putting them to sleep and, pushes them to like 5 or 6 games. And I think that would be a ton of fun, man. And so I think we deserve it as well to get Golden State. No offense to your team, but I don't think it would be as fun if the Suns were to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder as it would be to watch Curry try to slay this dragon by himself.
I think it's really hard to sweep teams in the NBA, but I've thought about a potential Suns Thunder series, I really just can't imagine the Suns getting on the board. I feel like the OKC defense is just too swarming and just too good at every position that there's no clear advantage that Phoenix would have in that series. So Golden State, you at least have a puncher's chance with Steph, at least in a game or two, not a puncher's chance of the series, but I'm with you. I think that would be a more exciting series to watch.
Yeah, I think they'd be good ATS and maybe steal a game, potentially too, if he's got a nuclear Curry game left in the arsenal.
Yeah. All right, well, the NBA playoffs are here, as you know, and the edges are smaller than ever. VSiN Pro gives you the advanced analytics, player prop projections, and expert insights serious bettors rely on when the games matter most. Try it for only $9.99 for your first month and see what sharps are using to beat the books. Head to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all of your options. All right, I mentioned I wanted to do some Eastern Conference Series matchups, and I think the best place to start is with the Knicks and the Hawks. I think that this is the series that I found myself to be most interested in, just because I really do view this as a lopsided one. I know that you're a little bit higher on the Hawks than me. I don't know what you think about this series specifically, but I have heard nothing but love for New York, and I have plays on New York, yet the number seems to keep going down. I'm looking at DraftKings right now. The Knicks are minus 275, Hawks only plus 220. I have this as a way more lopsided series than that, but what are your thoughts on this one?
No, so I went back and watched when they played each other. I think it was March 6th. That was kind of like the matchup. Actually, I think it was the Hornets Heat game. But either way, I went back and watched their last game against one another, Knicks and Hawks, that the Knicks ended up winning by 2 out there in Atlanta. And I came more around on the thought that the Knicks are going to be able to take this series. And then you look at the way that it was priced, like to your point, and as Kelly pointed out in our group chat, a local book out here had Knicks minus 1.5 at under minus 105. That to me, I thought was a very fair ask, to ask New York to come in here and lay 1.5 games in the series. So that's where I ended up. I'm really interested to see how Atlanta comes in here and plays on offense. They just don't really have a ton of shot creators. Obviously, you've got Jalen Brunson. You've even got Karl Anthony Towns, who they had a ton of trouble with in 2 games. I had double-doubles in both of them. The last game, he kind of killed them there. And I just think I was going through, and I thought it was really unique the way the Knicks decided to handle the lack of size that Atlanta had. If you go back and watch that game that I'm talking about, Zach, they put OG Anunoby on Onyeka Okongwu, and they put Karl Anthony Towns on Dyson Daniels. And they were just like, hey, here's the thing. If you want to use Onyeka Okongwu in some pick and rolls or whatever it is, we're just going to switch it because it's OG Anunoby who's defending him. And guess what? Dyson Daniels ain't blowing by Karl Anthony Towns. No. He's just going to try to hit a knockdown shot or whatever it is. So I really like the advantages schematically that New York has in a series like this, the more I went back and watched that. And I just think that when you look at combined with the pricing, I thought that, you know what, this is actually more than fair to ask New York to win this thing and lay 1.5 games at a dog price, considering what they have on the floor in their favor.
Yeah, and so I wrote all these series up over at VSiN.com. The other ones that are not up yet will be up this afternoon, but I did mention like the Daniels thing, it's going to let the Knicks off the hook with a lot of lineups that they have, because the one advantage you have when you face New York, and I'm sure Atlanta was thinking it, which is why they tanked to get them, is you do get to attack Brunson and Towns, but like one of those guys gets to hide on Daniels, and I think that there are a couple other players in this Hawks lineup that like might be good like regular season shooters, but I think you're fine with them taking threes in the postseason. Like, I don't think the Knicks are going to be worried about Okongwu taking like 7-8 threes a game in the playoff setting. I don't think they're going to care about Jalen Johnson even to an extent, like taking open threes. Like, I think that they're going to have ways to kind of get away with having some bad defenders on the floor. And I do think that, like you said, like the Hawks don't have the type of like half court initiator that you need to beat this type of team. I think McCollum is, a good player, but like definitely lost a step at this point in his career. And I think that everything he gives you on offense, he's going to give it back on defense. So not really seeing like an advantage there. And I just don't know. I don't see it with the Hawks yet. I think that Towns is going to dominate the series. I think Mitchell Robinson is going to dominate the series, because I do think Atlanta is just undersized at the center spot. Like, this is a team that's big from 1 to 4, but they are really, really small at center. And like Okongwu is going to get killed by Towns. They don't really have even a bench big to bring in that they could trust. So Robinson on the offensive glass is going to be a problem for them. So I like the Knicks -1.5 games here. I also have Knicks to win the series parlayed with Nuggets to beat the Timberwolves in that series. That's my biggest play of the postseason so far, to win 3 units. So I'm really feeling good about New York and Denver. But yeah, it's like, I understand Atlanta was scorching hot to end the season, but there's got to be context applied here. And that team struggled against good competition, and this is a really good Knicks team.
I mean, I would agree with all points. And even if you go back and watch the game that I'm referring to, they rolled out Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns together like that. And they can't, Atlanta didn't really have much there in those possessions in terms of their ability to to get on the glass and like do anything against an opponent like that, where you have Mitchell Robinson who can grab offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. Cat can still provide enough spacing, obviously, to offset that and play a power forward type as we have seen throughout his career. I would agree completely with what you've seen from them. And to your point about Atlanta against teams with a top 10 net rating, which would be New York, this season they were 9-20 and outscored by 5.2 points per 100 possessions. Their offense was 17th in the NBA in those games. So the large sample size would tell you that against top 10 teams, they've really scuffled. Why am I going to believe that against this top 10 team that is going to change over the course of a best-of-7 series?
Yeah, and I've like mentioned it before, but during the really hot stretch that they had, there's a blowout loss to the Rockets in a game that they probably should have like won when you just look at the scheduling. There was a loss to the Celtics, who were missing Jaylen Brown. And then this loss against the Knicks, like it was a home game in Atlanta that, they really needed. And like they outshot the Knicks from 3, making 16 compared to New York's 11. New York had more turnovers. Like, that's the type of game you expect to win, and they lost. So I feel like we've seen the best that Atlanta has to offer against New York, and I don't know that it's good enough. And I don't think Alexander Walker, by the way, who had a really, really good year and had a really good game that last time they met, I don't think you're going to expect 30 plus from him in many games in this series. So I don't know. It feels like one that could be really ugly. And I've also said, like, I do think, like, for all the faults the Knicks kind of have, they're really feisty and they're really competitive, and like they kind of get up for like big games, which we saw like in the NBA Cup. We saw it in last year's playoffs. Like, this is kind of a prideful team, and the fact that the Hawks like tanked to get them, they're going to remember that and they're going to rub it in their face, I think.
Yeah, and the Knicks handle these types of opponents relatively well. These middle 10 opponents, we'll call them, they're 18-12 against them. There you have a top 10 net rating against them as well. And to your point about the end of the season too, one of the victories we should note for Atlanta against a top 10 opponent, technically it was Cleveland, the game in which they were like 8-point favorites at the end of the season because Cleveland didn't care about the game. So you can draw a line through that and really say that they're kind of actually like 8-20 against these teams that are in the top 10, because that stretch that you're talking about to end the year, like, yeah, they weren't really that good. They had big high leverage games, and they did not perform relatively well against them. So look, maybe the market's just playing against. Like, I can understand, because I saw some openers of like Knicks -360 and Hawks were like in the range of 3-1. Like, all right, if you want to take like 3-1 on the Hawks to win it, I guess from a pricing standpoint, I kind of understand. But styles make fights here in the NBA postseason. Matchups really matter, and I think there's just a bunch of X's and O's that really go in the Knicks' favor.
Yeah. And I would even look into the Knicks like -2.5 games on an alternate. Like, I could see this being 5 or fewer games. Like I really can. I think honestly, like you just mentioned, kind of looking deeper into some of the losses and stuff, but like I think the most impressive win that they had in that stretch was like over Orlando. So that doesn't look great anymore. It's like, I don't know. Like I think they just played a lot of the tanking teams and took care of business in those games. And maybe that's another thing. It's like the price is so short because people see how they ended the season and they're like, all right, maybe this is the Pacers. But I said it yesterday on the podcast with Zach Harper, like, this team is not the Pacers. They don't have as many scorers. They don't have as many like good decision makers. Like that team was just so good and connected offensively, and everyone on the team was able to make plays. This is kind of different. Like this is almost like an opposite where they're all kind of good defensively, if anything. So I don't know. I feel like New York cruises.
That win over Orlando is kind of like you ever gone out with a couple that always argues in public and is fighting with each other and they're just always snippy, and you're like, maybe our relationship really isn't that bad. Because we have our issues, but look at these two. And then you get home, you're like, no, we still have our problems. Like that's the same thing, buddy.
All right. This is turned into the Ryan Russillo show, but
I like that.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on now to the Cavaliers taking on the Raptors. This is another one pretty lopsided, but I've definitely heard, a fair amount of support for Toronto. I actually think that you and I are some of the most optimistic people with the Cavaliers. We're kind of not buying into the James Harden narratives, at least not yet.
Not yet.
And I do really like Cleveland minus 2.5 games in this series. I looked at the numbers. Like I understand Toronto is 3-0 against Cleveland during the regular season. Don't really care. I feel like you look at some of the stuff that the Raptors do really, really well, and that's like mid-range jumpers attacking the basket. But against this Cavaliers team with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, don't think you're going to be able to successfully get to the rim that often. And I just don't think that they have the firepower to match that backcourt.
Are you a Scorpio?
I'm October 30th, so maybe.
Yeah, see, so the reason why I bring this up is I'm a Scorpio too, which means my birthday is in that range as well. I'm 35. I was 34 the last time Toronto and Cleveland played. Like the whole point here being is that they have not played since November. Like I don't know if I would buy too much into that. Long wind up for a terrible pitch. Either way. I'm with you. I've kind of been the like the Joker meme. Like I'm tired of saying it's not, and I'm tired of sitting here and going, you know what? No, like Cleveland with James Harden and Donovan Mitchell together on the floor has enough to dispatch Toronto, and it doesn't seem too serious what's going to happen with Emmanuel quickly. He's day to day with this hamstring strain. That they're at least very much presenting it like he might be fine. We'll see when we get there how that looks, and even if he plays, how healthy he's going to be. At the end of the day, when James Harden and Donovan Mitchell are on the floor, they put up 125.7 points every 100 possessions on offense. They outscore opponents by 7.1 points every 100 possessions together. Yeah, I think there is a lot more to be desired defensively with those two. I think that gets exposed or shown a little bit later in the postseason. I don't think it happens here against the Toronto Raptors. Raptors are a great and formidable group, but I was kind of going through the potential like, all right, like, hey, now that we have this, who are you going to put on who? What's going to be the defensive matchups? What's going to happen? And, you just go through it and you're like, which one of these guys do you really trust in the starting lineup to put on James Harden in those isolation situations? It's going to be one of Quickly or maybe Ingram because he's got some length, or maybe Barrett. I think that you're probably debating, do I put Ingram and or Barrett on Mitchell and Harden? I think those are probably your two best options because I think Scotty Barnes has to take on Evan Mobley because if not, it's a pretty big discrepancy in terms of size. And you're going to see a lot of, or any of these games on Amazon Prime, you're going to see a lot of mismatch or whatever the hell they put, what are they, the little logo they put on when there's a big on the small guard down low, or advantage, I think is what it is. Either way, I think that the Raptors have a lot of questions as to what they're going to do there. And on the other side, Cleveland, at least defensively, I don't think that they're going to get burned too bad if Donovan Mitchell's on a one-legged Emmanuel Quickly, or Harden has the ability to guard a bigger guy like Barrett because Harden's actually kind of a good low-key post defender if Barrett wants to try to use his size on him, whatever it is. So I think you can get away with a lot here in the series if you're Cleveland, and I think that ultimately is going to lead to them being able to burn this team and burn them relatively quickly.
Yeah, it almost hurts you that like Barnes is your best defender and he's a wing defender because like this is a team that really doesn't have a lot of wings offensively. It's like, put him on Mobley. Mobley will still be able to use his size. He feels wasted against Mobley, doesn't he? Yeah. I feel like Mobley also is going to be able to still do things because of his size, like around the basket at least. But I'm completely with you. Like I feel like at some point you're going to run into some trouble with having Mitchell and Harden as your backcourt defensively. But like the reason I keep saying that I still love the Cleveland, path is that I don't think it's going to happen the first two series unless the Hornets beat the Pistons. Like, I feel like you could get by with this backcourt against both the Raptors and the Pistons, like, because of the lack of shot creation both teams have. I just kind of think that this is the kind of a dream scenario for Cleveland, who I do have to win the East. I think that this is still the best team in terms of upside in the Eastern Conference. And yeah, I think the Quickly thing is interesting because, yeah, they're saying that the hamstring is kind of fine, but I think he also has like plantar fasciitis or something. So I don't know. He seems like he's definitely a little bit banged up. And if you're not 100% in this series, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And you know how those things work. Like, if he does have plantar fasciitis, maybe he's just overcompensating on one side, which is leading to a hamstring, whatever it is. So, if you're just not fully healthy in this set, and look, Quickly's quickness is part of his game too. So if he's not able to get them out and run and do certain things, then that's going to be a big problem for them as well. If they're not able to go up against this team and get them out in transition and burn them a little bit there too. So yeah, I think that everything kind of points to what Cleveland does. And I'll be interested to see if they try to switch it up. Like, if they try to put, because I would feel like maybe Barrett you can put on Mobley in terms of girth, but not size. Mobley would still be able to do what he wants there. There's so many things at work. And I mean, we haven't even mentioned him, but I don't know. Jakob Poeltl seems like a non-starter if he's going to be out there. He hasn't really been Jakob Poeltl from 5-6 years ago. So I think there's a lot that works for Cleveland here. I'm with you too. The way that it's priced, if you wanted to go minus 2.5 games or, those exact series, Cleveland at 4, Cleveland at 5, I think that works a ton here.
Yeah, and I will say, I feel like I've heard a lot of Darko Rajakovic is really good at staggering lineups and, finding ways to get the bench units to win and, play a little bit better than you'd think when looking at their rotation. But I will say, there isn't a team in the playoffs that I think has a better and deeper bench than Cleveland. I feel like they have 4 or 5 guys that you could actually trust in the playoff series between Schroeder, Ellis, Strus. These guys could all go. And I just kind of think that they're going to be ready. I feel like this is the big difference between this year's team and last year's team is kind of the emergence of some of these younger guys like a Jalen Tyson, who not sure what his health status is going to the playoffs, but big regular season for him. And then all just kind of the veterans that you could rely on off the bench. This is not, a team that's relying too much on Donovan Mitchell anymore.
Or just the litany of ball handlers and creators you have, and then you have the cool thing about the way that the Cleveland Cavaliers have reconfigured their team is they have so much more of the lineup versatility that they were lacking the last few years. You can stack a couple of shooters out there and stagger. You can put James Harden out there with a bunch of catch and shoot threats, and then all of a sudden you've got that kind of a lineup. You can go a little bit bigger and obviously play both Mobley and Allen. You can get a little bit smaller and go Mobley at the 5 and then play a bunch of dudes and you really spread it out. These bench lineups with Schroeder and Merrill out there, all these sort of guys that you could put Strus, there's a lot of versatility. They can lean on dudes a ton. It's also why, going back to the big picture stuff you and I are talking about, it's also kind of why I like them too. We focus so much, obviously, on the 2 big stars and the starting lineups, but they can, and Atkinson's good enough to push all these buttons. They can have so many different unique 5-man lineups out there that will really help to go after whatever they're facing in the next series.
Yeah, sadly, they just rely so much on Dean Wade, knocking down corner threes and stuff. It's because he's their best wing defender and one of their only true wings in general, with real size. So he's going to have to play well. But that's in terms of them actually going out and competing for the Eastern Conference and the championship. I think the first 2
that's
rounds,
if they run into Boston.
Yeah, I really think they're going to win the first 2 series. I think that they can beat the Pistons, but we'll see.
I would agree.
That'll be a controversial one.
I mean, can they beat the Hornets though? Because that's who they'll face.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you that the Hornets. I would have the Hornets over the Pistons. I think I have to dive into it a little bit more, but I really think that's possible.
I mean, did you bet them to win the East at any point?
No.
So I have them at 35-1, the Hornets to win the Eastern Conference. I don't know where it's priced. I haven't even looked, so it's probably still the same range. It's not anything groundbreaking, but I bought in. I'm ready to go.
I've been waiting to know that they're in the Eastern Conference playoffs first.
I know that they're in. Let's see. They're 25-1. So a little CLV. There we go. And then they get eliminated tomorrow.
And the final series that we have set is Celtics Sixers. And admittedly, I have not done as much research on this one. I'm going to be writing it up for the website this afternoon. Haven't done my numbers dive or anything. So can't really help you too much in terms of a pick here, but we'll just say it's another one like the Lakers series where if you're, betting the underdog, you're doing so just like anticipating a return of a superstar that like we really have no facts on happening. But, I did look it up. Like if game 4 happens and it's 2-1 somehow, then I think it becomes really interesting, like thinking about Embiid potentially returning from that appendectomy, because I think game 4 would be 17 days from the surgery that he had. And I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but 2.5 weeks sounds all right for an appendectomy. It's like, I know that like recent history in the NBA at least said like 3 to 4 weeks, but I don't know what that means for a playoff series. Like, it's always a little bit different in the postseason. And if you can get 20 to 25 minutes out of Embiid, not even 30 plus, I think that you have a chance to like win some games in this series. I'm still like very skeptical of Boston. I feel like the Celtics have been very, very good. I completely understand that. I think that Tatum's looked great. It's just like, I feel like we've kind of gotten way past the point of talking about the Eastern Conference being a little bit down. And I think that it has something to do with the Celtics looking so good. This is still a team that lost Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, like Luke Cornett. Like all these guys were playing well too. So it's not like they lost them before they like dipped or anything. Like Horford was better last year than he is this year. I feel like this is a worse team than they were a year ago, and no one's talking about it.
I mean, isn't it funny that when they were at full strength, nobody ever really wanted to buy into them because of past failures, and now they're here with like a stripped down version of that team, and everybody's like, "This team's gonna run away with this thing."
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Like I would say, what I wrestle with is the way that they're being priced. So like to an extension of that, I mean, they're minus 900 to win the series against the 76ers. Yeah. Should they be favored? Absolutely. Should the price be more like the way Cleveland and Toronto is being priced? I feel like yes. Especially when you're talking about the potential return of the big wuss Joel Embiid, who, according to Skip Bayless, is actually healthy and fully fine and did not undergo internal surgery in which his organ, or at least one organ, was removed, albeit a useless one. So I'm with you. Like, I just think the pricing and the perception of Boston is like, hey, like this is the team that won the finals a couple years ago. And the reality is like, hey, I mean, Jaylen Brown's good and Jason Tatum is Jason Tatum, but he's coming off an Achilles and Brown is, like somewhat inefficient, just kind of lead guy that was thrust into a different role. Still have Derek White and some good pieces, but I don't know, man. I think I don't know if I told this to you guys or whatever it was, but you look at some of the guys that might have to play a role for Boston, and I'll buy it when Baylor Shireman's in a best of 7 and is giving me everything. He give me everything I need. At some point, I would assume you're going to play Pritchard and Shireman together. What does that look like on defense with some of these teams too? You've done a good job with just grabbing dudes that are 7 feet tall and saying, hey, play center for us. But how does that work in the postseason, especially if Joel Embiid comes back? How does that look? So I think that they are rightfully favored, but I think the degree to which the market believes in them is one thing that I like to push back against for sure.
Yeah, and like plus 155 at DraftKings right now to win the Eastern Conference. The next best team is plus 330. I think the Knicks are going to beat them in the second round. Like I'm not even that high on New York, but I just feel like they're like, we saw the Knicks beat the good Celtics last year. I mean, pretty much. And it was a little fluky, but like still enough for me to believe that they could beat this version of them. I don't know. I think that Boston is really good. I just think that they're like right in there with these other 4 teams in the East. I don't think that they're higher than them. I don't think that they're much higher than them. I don't really understand where it came from outside of like Tatum looking. I feel like just the excitement of Tatum looking okay has kind of just warped everyone's minds a little bit.
Well, it's also because they beat expectations by so much as well. Yeah. I mean, so many people thought, obviously, we've all heard the term gap year. Everybody thought that this was going to be that, and the market thought that, and they blew through those expectations. They were great for future coach of the year, Joe Mazzulla, because he did a great job. And I think that's part of the reason why we're here with them from a perception and price standpoint. But the answer is always somewhere in the middle. And I don't think that they're this head and shoulders best team in the Eastern Conference that many believe them to be.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I say all that to say it's like I'm going to dive into all of this in a little bit. I think that if I were to take something right now in the series, it would probably be over 5.5 games. Like it was like plus 165. I think Philly's a little bit better than like getting swept by Boston. I think if Embiid does come back, all of a sudden you're talking about a really kind of back and forth series if he's able to give them, good Joel Embiid minutes. So I don't know. I think I was ready to buy on the Sixers before Embiid went down with the appendectomy. So it's a bit of a bummer. The timing is terrible. I feel like Philly was like kind of out there as like a sleeping giant in the Eastern Conference. All of a sudden, Embiid goes down again. And like you said, meaningless part of the body. So it's an even more of a bummer. So look, he'll probably come back and like then game 6 comes around. He needs his tonsils removed or something. But it's just, it's terrible.
It's just always something. That's the part that sucks. It's just always something with Embiid. That's the part that sucks.
And he had done such a good job getting himself kind of back in shape and playing really, really well this season when kind of no one really expected him to. So it's a huge bummer for him.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, attention to any listeners who are new to VSiN. Signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. All right. Well, before we recap any best bets that we have or any, series plays that we have, anything else you wanted to mention before we kind of wrap up here?
Nope, just looking forward to this postseason, man. It's going to be a ton of fun. It's off to a good start.
Yeah, great start. I am a little bit upset about the way the Rookie of the Year stuff is shaking out again because it's just back and forth, I don't know, chaos with Knipple and Flag. I feel like every time you think Knipple's about to run away with it and get us all home with this Rookie of the Year play, something else happens, and now it's like the voting was delayed. We're gonna have to demand a recount. I think
you should. No hanging chads, though. That's a good reference.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. So for playing games for tomorrow night, anything that you have officially so far, I took the Hornets -152 to win 1.5 units versus the Magic.
I'll be on the Warriors catching 3 or better. I know there's some threes out there, so you can put me down for that. And we'll go Charlotte -3.5.
Okay. And then official series plays. Do you have any in the Eastern Conference?
Yep, Knicks -1.5 games. So -104 was the play for me out here at a local book. I think it's playable up to like -115, -120. And as we were looking at this Cavaliers series as well, maybe playing some of this in terms of total games under 5.5 for Cleveland and Toronto, I think is also worth looking at. If you're expecting that this is going to be a short series between the two, it's -110, which I think is more than fair given the gap between them.
Yeah, and I did take -192 for -1.5 games, which is like, I know a lot of people say it's juicy. I don't really think of it that way. I think of it more like in terms of implied probability, and I thought it was a good value. So if you could find around -200, like in the -190 to -210 range, I still think that's a good play, -1.5 games. Give yourself an extra game of wiggle room, just because it is really hard to win in Toronto. Like that's the kind of the one thing I keep bringing myself back to is that like it does suck for these teams to have to go up there in the middle of a playoff series, and it is a tough place to play. So maybe that does help the Raptors make it a little bit closer than it should be, but I think the Cavaliers win pretty easily. And yes, I'm on the Knicks -1.5 games as well. And as I mentioned, Knicks with the Nuggets is my biggest play of the postseason. So hopefully those two get by. And yeah, that's really it for me. I did add yesterday, want to get the exact number because I'm not going to be able to talk. I'll talk about the series a little bit tomorrow, but we did Western Conference already and ended up writing about this a little bit after, but I have Blazers to win a game essentially in that Spurs series. So I took over 4.5 games. I think it was like -220 is what I want to say.
Okay.
Struggling to pull it up right now, so won't exactly keep people waiting. But yeah, I do think the Blazers will find a way to win at least one in that series. Yeah, -220 over 4.5 games. So essentially both teams to win a game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I can't wait for that series. That should be fun. I can't wait to see San Antonio get pushed.
Yeah, I think Portland's a little bit better than people think. At least like the defense is great and proven, and that'll make, San Antonio have to work and at least prove themselves. It'll be a good first series for the Spurs to kind of like get those young guys into a playoff mode because they're going to be pushed. They're going to have to battle. And I think that's the type of series you want heading into the second round.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for listening, whoever, stopped by. And if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever you could do to help us out. We appreciate it. And make sure you join us for a Friday episode of Harbor Handicappers, and best of luck with all your plays tonight, which won't be on the NBA, but whatever you do, if it's MLB, if it's tennis, we hope you do well.